I think the best thing for people in Hollywood that are entrenched in that world is to shut the fuck up. Because as soon as they start talking, people as soon as Robert De Niro starts talking, I'm like, Jesus, get that fucking microphone away from him so I can enjoy Taxi Driver.
Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome. He's one of those, I'm moving to Canada if he wins, and he's never going to leave the White House if he wins. We're going to have Trump forevermore. I mean, hello, I hate to break it to you because I realize you're advanced age too, Robert, but people die. So he will leave. One way or the other, he's going to go.
Robert De Niro walked in thinking this would be a soft, polite political chat. He had no clue what was coming. Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly were ready. 1 second, De Niro was ranting like he was giving an angry acceptance speech. The next, he was shut down live on air, fast and clean, like hotel sheets during a luxury scandal. Rogan fired off one line so sharp it left Megyn Kelly laughing hard, gripping her chair like she was watching a Hollywood crash happen in real time. And De Niro stood there looking like a man who just realized there's no delivery service for a comeback.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I don't want to hear. I love De Niro. I love those mob movies. It's like
I don't want to hear him that he's a moron. I don't want to hear him talking about politics and about Trump supporters, and just shut the fuck up, man.
If Robert De Niro got $1 for every political meltdown he's had, ranting like a method actor stuck in a never-ending speech, he'd be rich enough to buy a private island where no one ever says Trump's name. But instead of choosing calm and quiet beaches, he chose volume. He exploded on award show stages, hands flying through the air, swinging at enemies only he could see, like he mistook the teleprompter for a boxing opponent.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like, Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing. You've had this life where you were a fucking raging bull. You know, you were in The Godfather. Like, stop doing this.
Man.
Don't do this.
I'm terrified to meet some of those people I looked up to now.
You should be.
I mean, like
I've met a few of them, and it's actors in particular, because their whole business is pretend. Their whole business is pretend.
If you're enjoying this takedown, hit that like button and subscribe. And just when it felt like no one could handle another red-faced rant from a man famous for playing pretend mobsters, two media heavyweights stepped in, uninvited and completely unsympathetic. First came the podcast king himself, Joe Rogan, walking into the chaos like he'd accidentally wandered onto the set of a bad political stage play, then tearing the script apart on the spot. No warm-up, no warning, just a cold dose of reality delivered with sharp precision and a smirk that made one thing clear. This wasn't art, it was pure delusion.
To the people shouting him down like, your movies suck. That's not true.
No, his movies are very good.
Suck. He's one of the greatest actors. I mean, he's the heir apparent to Brando, blah, blah, blah. But he's a loon.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to just say what he is. He has, basically, I describe this to people. You know what's happening now? Because people are aware about concussions and the problems with CTE. When you get hit and you get a dinger in football, they put you in the blue tent, in the sideline.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen to Democrats. They need to go in the blue tent for a little bit, kind of, get your eyes checked, and then come out and be rational again.
Yeah, cool off
and
a
De
little.
Niro needs to go in the blue tent. I mean, because it's not calming things down. We need to be rational.
While De Niro was busy spiraling into a one-man Shakespeare-style meltdown in front of gold statues and bored celebrities, Joe Rogan was miles away, relaxed inside his podcast bunker, tossing verbal grenades with perfect aim. He didn't need to name anyone, not even close. The description fits so well it might as well have been custom-made by an angry Italian cobbler, stitched with revenge, pride, and a love for drama.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks that.
That's what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every fucking thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men.
And
they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Who told him that was a good idea?
And then
Rogan never had to say De Niro's name. He just painted a perfect picture of a certain kind of actor. The type who thinks playing a tough guy on screen somehow gives them real-world political wisdom. In Rogan's view, there's a special class of celebrity that believes memorizing lines about honor and justice in a mob movie qualifies them to lecture the public on policy. Spend 30 years pretending to be someone named Vito, And suddenly you think you're ready to explain democracy to the nation? That's like a barista thinking they can advise NASA on rocket science just because they swirl the coffee with style. With his usual tone, relaxed, amused, and slightly detached, Rogan delivered a quiet masterclass in dismantling ego. He didn't shout, he didn't rant. He simply picked apart the Hollywood fantasy with a precision that lands harder than a clean knockout. De Niro, though never named, might as well have been the main attraction, the unofficial face of the moment. A clear example of how a once-respected actor can slip from gravitas into grievance without even noticing the fall.
So Robert De Niro, who's got a severe case of the TDS, is in conference right now, as all of the muckety-mucks are. And he's very unhappy about what Trump is doing to try to keep filmmaking, American filmmaking, in America by slapping tariffs on foreign-made films so that he can basically try to force people to make them domestically again for the American audience that they're meant to serve. And here's what De Niro said on Tuesday.
America's Philistine president has had himself appointed head of one of our premier cultural institutions.
And then came Megyn Kelly. If Rogan was the calm assassin with a grin, Kelly was the storm carrying a spreadsheet. Where Joe laughed at the absurdity, she showed up like someone who'd been saving receipts for years and finally decided it was time to read them out loud, with the cheerful focus of a tax auditor. She didn't say De Niro's name either, but let's be honest, everyone knew who she meant. She tore apart the idea that playing noble characters on screen somehow earns a seat at the table of national policy. Her point was simple and brutal. Many celebrities want the power and praise of political influence without doing any of the real work. They treat award shows like campaign rallies minus the research, responsibility, or debate. The applause they get isn't for smart ideas, but for fame, familiar names, and a few glossy headlines. To Kelly, this wasn't just awkward or annoying, it was dangerous. Because when Hollywood stars crown themselves moral heroes inside rooms full of applause and flattery, the only people left who could challenge them are paid staff, and they're far too polite to speak up.
And then he starts yelling at regular people. He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you.
Like, it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Like, you know what also I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going, right? Mm-hmm. So your vision of the world, your actual vision of the world, your ability to read a phone. You ever see old people's text messages? The fucking text on their phone is like as big as my hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so your vision of the world is blurring, literally and figuratively, and then you're getting old, and when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Get off my lawn!
It's a shiny feedback loop of nonsense. A glamorous Groundhog Day where the same speeches hit the same crowd and come back as empty applause. But Megyn Kelly never lets a sacred cow walk by untouched. She zeroed in on the hypocrisy and tore it open, pulling back the velvet curtain to show the absurd reality of actors living in gated mansions protected by private security while claiming to speak for everyday people. These are folks lecturing the country about justice from podiums shaped like trophies, then cruising away in cars worth most families will earn in a lifetime. Kelly's criticism was sharp and clean, cutting straight through the illusion with one clear message: authenticity matters. People are tired of being lectured by millionaires who've spent years in makeup chairs, praised for simply hitting their mark. At some point, the costume comes off, the lights go down, and what's left is a man who once played a boxer, now swinging at invisible political enemies like he's still on set. And the real brilliance of this takedown is that it wasn't planned. Joe Rogan and Kelly didn't coordinate. They didn't have to. One is a former fighter turned podcast giant. The other is a former lawyer turned broadcaster who tears apart that logic on instinct. Different styles, different tones, different worldviews. But when the nonsense gets this loud, it doesn't take a strategy to call it out.
Make of that.
Well, it's a global problem because it's the greediness of these studios and some of these actors that, make a lot more money overseas than they would here. But I look at the film industry in the United States, and my father worked in the film industry in Boston. He was a transportation coordinator for the Teamsters Union. So I know a little bit about it. I look at the film industry as we have some of the most creative people in the world.
Rogan finds it funny that actors take themselves so seriously, like Shakespeare in designer sunglasses, while Megyn Kelly finds it genuinely troubling. Different tones, same conclusion. Robert De Niro has drifted from a respected figure into a walking punchline in a tuxedo. And the wildest part is, he doesn't even realize it. That's the genius of these indirect roasts. They aren't meant to trigger a dramatic clapback. They're meant to expose the absurdity so clearly that responding would only make things worse. Joe Rogan never needed De Niro to call in and defend himself. Kelly didn't need a debate segment either. They laid out their arguments separately, like two prosecutors arriving at the same scene and examining the same evidence from different angles. De Niro's act has shifted from award-winning drama to late-night sketch comedy, and he's the only one not laughing. Nothing makes that shift clearer than being roasted independently by two media heavyweights with no reason to align unless the target really is that obvious. At this point, De Niro feels like the celebrity version of someone yelling at pigeons in Central Park. Loud, theatrical, and fully convinced he's delivering deep wisdom. While Rogan's audience laughs at the Hollywood cosplay comparisons, and Kelly's audience nods along as she calmly dismantles the idea that a black suit somehow equals credibility.
Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about this publicly?
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
If you're going to come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, you can't just be, he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him.
He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
You probably, if you're going to express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're going to have to do better than that.
There's a sharp irony in watching a man who made his name playing gritty, grounded legends now drifting far above reality, untethered and unaware. The real game changers aren't the ones yelling from gold-plated podiums like it's open mic night at a political rally. They aren't the ones shouting into the void and thinking the echo counts as applause. Real influence comes from substance, not volume. Lately, Robert De Niro's speeches sound less like the voice of a generation and more like an angry relative who just discovered Wi-Fi and can't stop ranting. And somehow, no one saw this unexpected twist coming. Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, two people who probably couldn't agree on how to order pizza, ended up perfectly aligned, like synchronized satellites circling one fading, flaming star.
What about the garbage outside today? Robert De Niro, officially sent by the Biden campaign, makes himself look like an idiot and reminds us why Trump is so popular.
It's so stupid. It was colossally stupid. If you're going to send somebody to go speak outside of the Trump trial, make it someone who's universally beloved, like a Michelle Obama. You know, she's not universally loved. She's not loved on the right. But I'm saying, like, at least within the left and the center left, and maybe even some center righties. Robert De Niro has gone so hard partisan over the past 8 years. He is like example number one of Trump derangement syndrome.
On one side, there's Joe Rogan, the cage-fighting philosopher in a hoodie, calmly unpacking the madness of celebrity activism like it's his favorite conspiracy to study. On the other, Megyn Kelly, razor-sharp and relentless, cuts through Hollywood delusion with the precision of a neurosurgeon who never forgets a mistake. They're complete opposites in style, tone, and even taste. Yet somehow, they ended up sharing an unspoken high five over the smoldering remains of Robert De Niro's cultural relevance. It's not just funny, it's oddly poetic. Like cats and dogs forming a jazz band for one goal, mocking the neighborhood rooster, who won't stop crowing about politics. Rogan's takedown is cool and sarcastic, part skeptic, part disbelief, while Kelly lands every line like a gavel, confident, precise, and shaped by years of spotting people who confuse applause for principle.
Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference, and he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Yeah. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense. Like, why?
This isn't just about Robert De Niro yelling into microphones like he's starring in Old Man Yells at Everything, the musical. No, it's about the glossier, louder, and increasingly out-of-touch world of celebrity culture itself. For years, we've watched actors climb onto podiums with prophetic confidence, as if an IMDb page automatically grants geopolitical wisdom, as if playing a war hero or crusading lawyer somehow turns performance into policy expertise. Sorry, but playing Vito Corleone doesn't qualify you to run international affairs. And when you storm the stage, red-faced and swinging at the air like you're battling a raccoon in your kitchen, you remind everyone that volume isn't a substitute for substance. That's why this brief, sharp roast from Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly didn't just land as comedy. It felt like a cultural exhale, a national eye roll, a clear signal that the public is done pretending the guy from Raging Bull holds the keys to solving modern political and economic crises. In the end, it wasn't about silencing De Niro. It was about exposing a tired illusion. Fame isn't wisdom. Volume isn't truth. And applause from a room full of insiders doesn't translate to credibility outside it. That's why Rogan and Kelly's quick, cutting roast hit so hard. It didn't shout, it didn't lecture, it simply held up a mirror and let the reflection do the talking. The era of mistaking screen legends for real-world authorities is fading, and the public knows it. Enjoy the classics, respect the performances, but stop pretending the guy from Raging Bull has the blueprint for the nation's future. That curtain has finally closed.